Breaking King Charles has stunned Prime Minister Starmer with a constitutional bombshell that is sending shockwaves through Britain. Cabinet ministers are reportedly abandoning Downing Street at this very moment. 3 centuries of political tradition have been upended in just 24 hours. What followed has Westminster insiders warning of the potential collapse of the Labour government by nightfall. Here's what triggered this unprecedented crisis. At 9:17 a.m. yesterday, King Charles summoned Starmer to Buckingham Palace for what was expected to be a routine weekly meeting. Palace sources said the king appeared visibly stern, holding a leather portfolio containing what have now been identified as classified security documents. His message was unambiguous. The government's management of national security has become dangerously inadequate. Starmer, however, was not prepared to accept royal criticism. He reportedly stormed out of the palace after just 11 minutes. The confrontation has sparked the most serious constitutional crisis since the abdication of Edward VIII. 3 separate palace sources confirmed the king's exact words to Starmer. "Your government has compromised British security interests 4 times in the past month alone. This pattern of negligence must end immediately, or there will be consequences." Starmer's response was swift and furious. "With all due respect, Your Majesty, security policy is the exclusive responsibility of elected officials, not the Crown," before abruptly ending the meeting. Within hours, the repercussions were felt. The king formally requested an emergency meeting of the Privy Council, a measure invoked only 3 times in the past century. Former Home Secretary James Cleverly described the atmosphere as absolutely poisonous, telling Sky News that royal intervention at this level signals a complete breakdown of trust between the monarch and his government. But here's what the mainstream media is not reporting. Security experts have confirmed that Starmer's government ignored critical intelligence briefings on 3 occasions in September alone. Former MI5 director Sir Richard Dearlove described it as the most reckless approach to national security he had witnessed in 38 years of service. The documents presented by the king were not routine reports. They contained specific warnings about imminent threats to British citizens, both domestically and overseas. Sources within intelligence circles claim Starmer dismissed these warnings as exaggerated and politically motivated. That dismissal may have grave consequences. Just hours after the palace confrontation, police arrested 3 suspects in Birmingham linked to international terror networks, the very threat outlined in the documents Starmer rejected. Meanwhile, ordinary British pensioners who served this country in conflicts around the world are facing unprecedented hardship. Alan Thornberry, a 79-year-old Royal Navy veteran from Portsmouth, had his heating allowance cut by Starmer's government last month. He now sits in his unheated flat wrapped in blankets, unable to afford both food and warmth. "I served Queen and country for 32 years, Alan told us, tears in his eyes. "Now I feel abandoned by the very nation I protected. While vulnerable veterans struggle, Labour ministers enjoy lavish taxpayer-funded luxuries, including first-class travel, 5-star hotels, and hundreds of bottles of champagne at diplomatic events. Home Office records obtained through Freedom of Information requests show ministerial expenses have risen by 147% since Labour came to power. A single dinner at the Savoy, hosted by Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, cost taxpayers $18,750 for just 12 guests. The disparity is so stark, so morally indefensible, that even lifelong Labour voters are abandoning the party in droves. Recent polls indicate that 68% of traditional Labour supporters over 65 now feel completely betrayed by Starmer's leadership. Then something extraordinary happened, catching everyone off guard. King Charles broke 70 years of royal precedent with a move that sent shockwaves through the political establishment. At Windsor Castle, in George's Hall, King Charles delivered an unprecedented address to military leaders with not a single government representative in attendance, a direct challenge to civilian control of the armed forces. Britain's security must transcend partisan politics, Charles declared, visibly emotional. "When ministers fail in their duty to protect this realm, the Crown cannot and will not remain silent." The speech was more than a rebuke. It was a clear warning. Royal historians say it breaches the unwritten conventions that have preserved Britain's stability since the Glorious Revolution. Professor Jonathan Sumption, former Supreme Court Justice, described it as constitutionally seismic, likening it to Queen Victoria's confrontations with Prime Minister Gladstone. The key difference, Sumption noted, is that Victoria operated behind closed doors, whereas Charles has made this dispute public, fundamentally shifting the balance of power. Palace insiders revealed Charles consulted privately with 5 former prime ministers before taking this extraordinary step, all reportedly supporting his intervention. The optics are devastating for Starmer, who now appears isolated and increasingly vulnerable. Markets reacted with immediate panic. The pound fell 3.8% against the dollar in just 4 hours, the sharpest decline since Brexit. The FTSE 100 lost $27 billion in market value by the close. Leading financial institutions, including Barclays and Lloyds Banking Group, saw shares fall 6.2% and 7.1% respectively. Energy stocks tumbled as investors feared political instability could derail Britain's nuclear power expansion, a cornerstone of Starmer's economic strategy. BP and Shell together lost $14 billion in market capitalization. Labour's parliamentary majority is fracturing before our eyes. 17 backbenchers have now publicly called for Starmer's resignation. Deputy Leader Angela Rayner has notably failed to defend him. Labour MP for Nottingham East, Nadia Whittome, broke ranks dramatically on BBC Newsnight, saying the Prime Minister's conduct has become erratic and increasingly concerning. His treatment of His Majesty was disrespectful and has damaged our party's standing with millions of voters who hold the monarchy in high regard, she said. But wait, it gets even more astonishing. International reaction has been swift and severe. The German Chancellor expressed deep concern over Britain's stability. American officials have reportedly postponed 3 high-level security briefings until the situation becomes clearer. Social media erupted, with the hashtag Our King Charles trending globally for 19 consecutive hours. Over 2 million posts used the hashtag within the first 6 hours alone. Polls show Starmer's approval rating plummeting, dropping from 48% to just 29% overnight. The latest YouGov survey indicates 64% of Britons believe he should resign immediately. But there is another layer to this crisis, one that makes the situation even more perilous. Inside number 10, chaos reigns. Ministers are reportedly shouting at one another in corridors. Emergency security meetings have been running through the night. Foreign Secretary David Lammy allegedly threatened to resign during a heated exchange with Starmer, described by staff as nuclear in its intensity. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was overheard saying, "He's lost it completely. We can't continue like this for another hour, let alone another day." WhatsApp groups with names such as Operation Lifeboat and Aftercare are reportedly plotting leadership challenges. 7 cabinet ministers have joined these digital coup centers. The question is not if they will move against Starmer, but when a senior Downing Street advisor speaking on condition of anonymity revealed that Starmer has become increasingly isolated and suspicious of those around him. The advisor described seeing the Prime Minister pacing his office at 3 a.m., convinced the palace is orchestrating his downfall. Starmer appeared physically unwell at yesterday's emergency press conference, with sources reporting that his hands were visibly shaking as he gripped the podium. Cabinet Secretary Simon Case, Britain's most senior civil servant, has reportedly prepared contingency plans for a change in leadership. These plans, codenamed Operation Seamless Transition, were originally designed for medical emergencies but are now being adapted for what officials are calling a leadership crisis. And here's what makes this entirely unprecedented. The military is watching closely. General Sir Patrick Sanders, Chief of the Defense Staff, has ordered a review of command protocols. While fully constitutional, the timing sends a clear signal about where military loyalty ultimately lies. Here's where it becomes truly striking. You won't hear this anywhere else. Classified security documents reveal that Starmer's government deliberately withheld intelligence warnings concerning 3 terrorist suspects who entered Britain using false identities last month. If these documents are genuine, and if they confirm what our senior intelligence source claims, Starmer didn't just clash with the king, he placed British lives at risk through catastrophic negligence. Consider the implications. The Prime Minister potentially compromised national security and then had a meltdown when the monarch confronted him. The optics would be devastating. Meanwhile, Rishi Sunak is executing a strategic and composed response. While Labour unravels, Sunak appears statesmanlike and measured. While Starmer raged at the palace, Sunak calmly told reporters, "In times of constitutional tension, cool heads and respect for our institutions must prevail." The Conservative Party stands ready to provide stable leadership when Labour cannot. Polls reflect the shift in public sentiment. Conservative support has risen from 29% to 37% in just 72 hours. For the first time since the last election, the Tories are not merely gaining ground, they are positioned to reclaim power if a snap election occurs. Reform UK and Nigel Farage are also capitalizing on the turmoil, climbing to 19% and potentially holding the balance of power in any future parliament. The next 48 hours are critical. Government sources warn of mass resignations, a formal vote of no confidence, and the possible collapse of the administration. The question is no longer whether Starmer can repair his relationship with the King, it is whether the Labour Party itself can survive this catastrophic rupture with the monarchy. Britain is witnessing its government unravel in real time. This crisis will be analyzed for decades as the moment royal authority reasserted itself after a century of decline. At its center stands Starmer, increasingly isolated, desperate, and politically cornered. So here's the question that matters. Did King Charles overstep his constitutional limits? Did Starmer just commit political suicide by confronting the monarchy? Or has he inadvertently triggered a long overdue reckoning over who truly holds power in modern Britain? What do you think? Should the king have the authority to challenge elected officials on matters of national security? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every one of them, and if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who deserves to know what is really unfolding in Westminster right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth, but we will. Tomorrow, we'll reveal the explosive documents at the heart of this confrontation, the very files the government is desperately trying to suppress.